Welcome, guys, to a new podcast about economy. The topic today is Saudi Arabia and its endless opportunity, its endless economic opportunity of growth in the future. Again, this is not financial advice, this is just a knowledge podcast based on the economy and current events. So, Saudi Arabia is located at a hub. It is basically a hub that connects Europe to Asia. It is located right in between Asia and Europe, and it's also pretty near to Africa. It's right adjacent to Africa, and Africa is it is the fastest growing population in the world when it comes to continent. So Saudi Arabia is situated to that massively growing continent, to its southwest, and to its west it is connected to Europe, and to its east there's the mighty Asia, the gigantic Asia. Saudi Arabia plays really smart diplomatic roles when it comes to economy. They have created a trading network that is a sight to be seen. It's probably one of the best trading networks in the world when it comes in a sense of relationships. So Saudi Arabia has a pretty neutral stance in a world, which makes it a perfect place for economic trade, because it has security from the west, from the east, and from the southwest as well. China has great trading relationships with Saudi Arabia, which really puts it in a spot where, when it comes to import and export, it has a massive market in the east. It also has a massive market still in the west. As we know, it has great relations with the US. With this administration, the Biden administration, it's kind of weakened the relationships, but Saudi Arabia just dipped it, and they went to BRICS and created new relations with other factions, but really the US is still a trading partner with Saudi Arabia. There's no such thing as an embargo or any of that sort. So, and as we know, every 4 years there's a new election, and the Republican Party seems to be much more in favor of good relations with Saudi Arabia, and thus the future is at least to 50% secured, if you think it like that. But historically speaking, it has a really stable relation with even with the West, with some exceptions, but basically it has really good relations. It exports its oil pretty good, exports some other goods, some agricultural goods, and it imports, of course, a lot of equipment. But it is a really great exporter of oil and gas to the west and also to the east, and it has a huge opportunity when it comes to East Africa, which is a vastly growing region in the world. Many people don't understand how fast and how stable East Africa, especially Uganda and Kenya, is growing. There are some economies that are to be reckoned with. Even Ethiopia is very, very much a growing economy. And the whole continent of Africa has huge population, and they will have huge demands of various goods that Saudi Arabia could provide. And Saudi Arabia tries to diversify its economy by there's a lot of industries in Saudi Arabia that are re-emerging and or emerging for the first time in manufacturing, industrial goods, etc. So Saudi Arabia, they try to diversify the economy as good as possible. And newly, also the venture of tourism has opened for the country of Saudi Arabia. There's the tourist side of things, which is also going, it's in its infancy. So it is a newborn baby, basically. Yet it has already had seen many successes. Saudi Arabia is perfectly set up for tourism, as it has a beautiful coast on the west. It has a very beautiful coast. It has some nice coastal cities like Jeddah, for example. It has historic heritage. The Romans have been there for a while. There's been Christian influences. Of course, it's the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad, so you have that aspect of history, and as you probably know, probably 1/5 of the world, or 1/4 of the world, maybe even a third, well, let's say a fourth of the world shares that religion. So there's huge tourist opportunity in Saudi Arabia. They also have pretty good infrastructure, which is really a fundamental aspect tourism is longing for, or is asking for. So those are some things that are really, really playing in Saudi Arabia's hands. It's also the economic principles in Saudi Arabia are very good, because there's low taxes, which means it is extremely attractive for any company, domestic, or maybe in the future they let some more foreign companies grow. But at least the domestic companies have huge potential to grow, because there's very low taxes, which boosts the growth of domestic companies a lot. And there's very liberal laws when it comes to regulations for the businesses, so that also plays in their favor, economically speaking. So there's huge growth opportunity in Saudi Arabia. Also has a tradition of valuing precious metals like silver and gold, so that means it is pretty stable in that regards as well. It has huge oil and gas reserves in itself, the country, which is also playing in its cards. It has a very conservative view of money and wealth, in the sense that they don't like debt. Debt is pretty much disowned in the society. It's not liked in the whole mentality of the Saudi spirit, something looked down upon. So they're not going to bring themselves too much into debt. Rather, they are going to be stable and eager to pay all debt, or not even go into too much large deficits, trading deficits really, and spending deficits. So Saudi Arabia has a really, really promising position. And about 10 years ago, they even opened investor opportunities for foreigners. So foreigners could start to invest in Saudi stocks up to 49%. And that is also a venture that plays in the hands of Saudi Arabia. They have a growing population, a pretty young population as well. And they also have a lot of mega projects in the making. Some projects might not properly work out. They might be too ambitious, but many projects make a lot of economical sense. A lot of roads, a lot of infrastructure, giant projects of infrastructure across the desert. Huge type of projects that are undertaken. Saudi Arabia, despite the turmoil in the world's economics today, has a very, very good position to overcome the economic crisis, the worldwide economic crisis, which seems to happen pretty soon. Stay tuned for more economic updates when I speak about the world economic crisis, currencies and economies and things of that nature. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you want to hear more. Bye bye.